My name is Arel Moodie. I'm one of the co-owners of Empact, which stands for Entrepreneurial Impact. And what we do is we're a company that facilitates entrepreneurship education to youth across the country. We do that specifically with our Extreme Entrepreneurship Tour. It's a half-day event where we bring the country's top young entrepreneurs, individuals who are under 30, have built, made, or sold $1 million in their business, or have done something that's making a big social impact. And we bring them for a half-day event on colleges and high schools, specifically to get people excited about entrepreneurship from people who look like them, sound like them, and motivate them. And we do a lot of other big events like our Future of Entrepreneurship Education Summit that we did at the White House and at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, where we bring in the top level thinkers to find out how to move entrepreneurship education forward from the top, and then we take it down ourselves. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, in an area called Canarsie. I grew up in a situation where I didn't have a lot of resources, didn't have a lot of money, was on welfare, lived in the projects for the first 18 years of my life. So I was someone who never really understood entrepreneurship. We don't have entrepreneurs in my family. So for me, entrepreneurship became somewhat of a way out opportunity for me. So I didn't come from a silver spoon or anything like that. Well, my first experience being an entrepreneur probably happened subtly. You know, if you want to go to the first experience, when we had snow in New York City, I would take my mom's garden shovel and I would go to people's doors and I would knock and try to shovel their snow. Now, little did I know there's a difference between a garden shovel and a snow shovel. Snow shovel gets the job done in like 75% of the time of a garden shovel. So that, I think, was my first taste without really knowing what it was. But my first real business is when I was in college and created an off-campus housing service that connected housing, roommates, and sublets. The idea that sparked my first business is actually an interesting story, and I think that for most people, they don't sit down and say, this is the brilliant idea. And if that happens, it's not usually the idea they end with. So the first idea came from friends and I at a college party. We went to go get some food after the event. We couldn't find a place to eat, and there was only one place open in this small college town that we were at, and it was this truck. And it was a great truck, and we were like, man, we should bring this idea of a late night hot food truck to my campus. So we spent all this time putting this business plan together for that idea because we thought it was the best thing in the world that we forgot to renew our lease. So we got to a point where we were so busy that we didn't have a place to live anymore. So we were going around trying to find a place to live and realized how difficult it was. Once we realized how much money it actually took to start a hot food truck, we realized, well, there's a bigger problem that we know college students have, is that they need to find places to live. So it was only because we started going after an idea from a spark of innovation, if you will, that the business that we actually started even came about, which we never would have planned on its own. Right, so the very first idea that I had when I had a business, and I really do believe this. Some people say, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? I think that I was a made entrepreneur. I wasn't a born one because I didn't have the natural skills. So the very, very first thing I did is I went to local pizza shop owners, the comic book store owner, and what I said to them was, I'm a student, I'm doing a personal project, I'd love to interview you about your story. How did you start your business? Where did you get the money from? If you could do things all over again. And what I did was I just went to all these local business owners because I wanted to interview successful people and find out how they did what they did in real time. And I always ask this question, which I think is a really important question to ask, which was, do you know of another entrepreneur or another business owner? I didn't know the word entrepreneur back then, I said business owner. Do you know of another business owner I could do the same interview with? Because my theory was, if they're successful, they probably know other successful people. So my whole goal was to just talk to people, and when I was a student, people were much more willing to help me than probably any other time in my life. So that was my first steps to finding out how they did what they did, and then I tried to pull lessons learned and get advice, and actually one of those people became my first entrepreneurship mentor and is still my mentor to this day. So one of the big things that I'm a huge advocate of is the power of one conversation, the power of one email, the power of one phone call. A lot of people, when they get interested in entrepreneurship, they become so like, well, what am I supposed to do? Why would anyone want to help me? I don't have anything to give. So they don't reach out to people because they feel like they can't buy their time or they can't give them something of value. What I found is a lot of people are very interested in helping if you ask. If there was one concept or one idea that I think is the single most important thing that's changed my life, that I think can change a lot of people's lives, is ask for help from someone who you admire. Someone that you may not even think cares to have the time. Chances are they want to, but the key is you have to be persistent. What I found is that you shoot one email, they're so busy they forget about it, and tons of people contact them. But if you find a local business owner and you come back day in and day out or week after week, they'll eventually really appreciate and admire your persistence and want to kind of open the vault and give you all of their inside information. So for me, one email completely changed my life. I read a book by an author named Michael Simmons who wrote the Student Success Manifesto. I thought it was a fantastic book on entrepreneurship. I emailed him and said, I finished your book. Now let him know I actually read it. I didn't just buy it. I read it. I read your book. It was fantastic. Can I ask you for some advice? That was one email that turned into a friendship, and now he's my business partner in what we're doing now. So one email can literally change your life. For me, my biggest challenge was I didn't know what to do next. So I'd have all of these days go by where it was like, all right, well, I don't have any money. I don't have a wealthy family. I don't have investors. Not sure how to get started if I don't have money, but I know I can't let money be my excuse. So for me, it was kind of finding out what to do next. And a lot of people say that, well, wasn't your issue money? And I don't think that's ever the issue. I think the issue is, what step are you going to take next? You know, I like to say that if you open up a Word document to say type a paper and you don't know what to type your paper about, you usually sit there and maybe you jump on Facebook or you jump on email or Twitter because you don't know what to do. But sometimes when you're writing your paper, you're in the zone. You know exactly what you want to say, and I've seen and I've done where you can write an entire paper in class, you know, the entire report in one day because you have a clear idea of what you want to do next. So for me it was, what do I do today? Okay, I sit down, open my computer, how am I supposed to run a business? And the solution to that came from the conversations I had with successful people saying, if you were in my shoes, what would you do next? That was my favorite go-to question. They would say, well, I would do this, and then I would actually go ahead and do it, and I would pick up books, and I started reading, and I think that if you don't like reading, it's because you haven't found a book that resonates with you, and when you do, you'll love reading, and it'll give you the answers to that next step. This is the number one piece of advice that I would give to anyone interested in furthering their idea. One of the biggest mistakes I see when I travel across and I do events on college campus or high school campuses is someone will come up to me and they'll say, I have this great idea, but I can't tell you what it is because I don't want you to steal it. And what I found is that most people will not steal an idea. I've met tons of entrepreneurs from different levels, from Fortune 400 to billionaires to young entrepreneurs to people just starting, and I haven't met someone yet who shared an idea and had it stolen. Here's why. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of work to make any business happen. And odds are whoever you're speaking to would rather help you than do all of the work necessary to steal your idea. So I recommend everyone be open with sharing your ideas. You know, there may be certain information that you choose to withhold that might be your secret sauce, maybe, and that's in a very, very rare, intellectual, brilliant type situation. But for most cases, for most of us who just want to get it done, share your ideas with people, go to mentors, don't worry about being open, and the more you share, do not hoard it. I'm telling you, if you hoard the idea, it will never turn into a reality. Share it, and more times you'll find people want to help you than hurt you. So social media by far is a great idea. You know, people always say, how do I find the answer? I say, you'll be surprised if you just post a question on Facebook or Twitter, the responses you'll get. Maybe you do a hashtag question or you do an @ to a person that you admire. If you do it enough times, you'll be surprised at who wants to help you. And there are a lot of people out there that are just searching for people to use certain hashtags on Twitter, or maybe your friends. You have no idea who your friends actually know. So I'm always blown away when I'll say, man, I don't know the answer to this, and I'll post it just kind of saying, has anyone ever dealt with this? And then I'll have 16, 17 answers almost instantly. So don't underestimate your social network. I think it's a great way to kind of reach out and just start a new conversation with someone. So when I was in Binghamton University and I was doing this personal project of interviewing successful entrepreneurs, here's the most important thing I'd say. For me, I would write down everything that I could get from the person. So everything, like I tried to almost do word for word, and if they said something that just really stood out to me, I would put a big star and circle it. Now, you may interview someone for an hour and only get one idea. That is a successful interview. Most people want to say, well, if I'm here, I want to get like a A to Z step-by-step plan. And the goal for me, and I didn't understand that back then, but I get it now, is if you can get one nugget, one bit of information that you didn't have before, you're better off than you were before the conversation. And chances are when there's too much information, it becomes kind of it's too much information and you don't do anything. So your goal when you're interviewing someone is to take as many notes as possible, but you're really looking for one, maybe two ideas that you can immediately apply that's going to make you better than you were yesterday. And that's the goal to having a successful interview with this process.